Hello everyone, today in this video we'll fight against the advanced character of our world around us, and this time we will just reveal one truth many people do not want to accept and even more people have no idea about. We have to take into account that in the late 20s and 30s, even up to 60s, in the Soviet Union there was a huge problem with biological sciences. And one of the reasons for that was the guy called Trofim Lysenko, who was called by Soviet newspapers, Soviet media those days, in early 30s as barefoot professor, because they were depicting him as someone who is working in the field, coming, of course, in line with communist propaganda from very poor family of nowadays Donbass, something like this. He himself was of Russian Ukrainian origin, and he was agrobiologist, so we would say agricultural sciences, and this guy is known from rejecting Mendelian genetics. So briefly, to the point, he was claiming that one can inherit and one inherits the features that we are gaining during our lifetime, so our damages. So for instance, he was literally saying that if we have children born and we cut the finger in one hand each generation, so each generation this finger will be shorter and shorter, and at one point it will disappear. Of course, it's not true. Another of his hypotheses that one of them affected Russian agriculture and biology and was one of the reasons of famine in Soviet Union was statement that if we plant orange trees each year 50 kilometers on the north, soon we should have them in Moscow. As we see, even today, we have no orange trees in Moscow, and seemingly we will not have them. So this was spread of pseudoscience. Of course, he was not the only one. There was also a lady of also cellular sciences, Olga Lepieshinskaya, who was saying that life was created from spontaneously for unanimate matter. Of course, everything in line with Soviet atheism and materialism. And there was also another guy. Actually, he was a botanist and specialist in the development of new types of fruit trees, Michurin. And Michurin, in contrast to previous two I have mentioned, he was quite successful because of course he had this crazy theory about the grafting of plants, that one plant is mentor and second plant is taken under the mentorship of the mentor. Of course, stupid theory, completely against the genetics and molecular biology basis. We are aware, and we were aware those days of majority of these principles. But as I mentioned, in contrast to the previous two completely harmful and crazy pseudoscientists, at least Michurin was practitioner, and he created new types of fruit trees. So at least this was the positive outcome of his pseudoscientific activity. And until early 60s, Lysenkoism infested Russian biology. People who were opposing it were prosecuted and in best case kicked out of academia, and so on and so on. And nowadays, similar thing with all of this critical race theory, all of this conflicting people according to their ethnic origin, gender and other stuff, imaginary group that confront each other or realistic group that confront each other, and making people arguing on the basis of these facts. All of this, nowadays we have our Western version of Lysenkoism, because Lysenkoism is this political movement in late 20s, 30s and up to 60s in Soviet Union that affected Soviet science, especially Soviet biology. But nowadays we have something with green socialism. I'm always referring to in my channel that we have something much more severe, because all of this gender ideology, all of this pseudo-eco ideology, and this promoted non-existing conflict between women and men, it's all based on the same negation of reality and confronting one group of people, existing or not, it doesn't matter, with another, just to apply in a brutal way old rule. From Latin it sounds like this, divide et impera, and in English it's translated as divide and conquer. But we have to take into account that Lysenkoism caused famine and backwardness of Russian bioscience for many years, Soviet bioscience. But our version of Lysenkoism we have now, so all of this wokeness caused destruction of human relations, destruction of our culture, first of all, of our identities, even the most basic identity of young people as gender men or women, and destruction of the economy effectively at the end of the day. So if we don't stop this madness, the Lysenkoism of our days, so this wokeness, we will end up in the worse position than Soviet Union ended up after Lysenkoism was abandoned in the early 60s of 20th century. And Russian science had to rebuild, especially bioscience, because physics and mathematics were doing well, despite the fact there were some troubles that formalism for quantum physics and chemistry, formalism of Neuville von Neumann was banned, and great physicists of Landau and Lifshitz had to invent quickly their own equivalent formalism to study physics and to teach students. Physical science and chemical science and mathematics were not so much affected as bioscience. But nowadays, this what we have now, our Western version of Lysenkoism based on new Marxism, attacks us completely on many fronts, as I said. Basic identity, cultural identity, basic identity, I understand, biological identity, and it will affect also economy, because we have a lot of problems with young people. We call them snowflakes. They are not able to take any criticism. There is, of course, destruction of the family due to this conflict between men and women that is promoted by leftist ideologists. So demography goes down, so there is a change in quantity and quality of young people. And now these young people infested with this neo-Marxism wokeness stuff go to the labor market, and it's time for economic consequences of these Western type of Lysenkoism to emerge. Really hard times are coming, and I don't know how we will go through it. Somehow we will, but it will be tough, and a lot of distraction and problems will occur. All the best, have a nice day, bye.